I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? I just met her tonight, but I felt like we've known each other forever. You know what I'm saying? You was looking very elegant, and I feel like we're all in for a treat right now. Yo, everybody, right now, big round of applause. Put your hands together, please. Everybody, put your hands together. Start clapping for Mary and Geneva. Come on, clap your hands. Show us some love. Unfold your arms, brother. Make some noise, everybody, please. Come on, show us some love.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary. For those of you who don't know me, you're going to know me very well. What's that? Oh. Okay. So for those of you who don't know me, you're going to know me very well by the time I get off this stage tonight. Probably a little too well. I'm here tonight, I think, because I'm still single, which, yeah, I'm still very much single. Which means I haven't hooked up with anyone in a really long time. I'm also living in Hell's Kitchen, which is probably why I'm still single, because 90% of the guys are gay or superheroes. Is anyone out there dating? Have you ever been on a bad date? Raise your hand if you've ever been on a bad date. There's gotta be one or two out there. All right, I feel you. It's challenging dating what I call the Manhattan dating pool, or more like swamp now that it's getting hot around the city. It's like the worst dress to wear tonight because I'm like so hot. So I think what I need tonight is just a really good Tito's and soda and a hot and steamy makeout session. But for tonight, I'll settle for sharing with you my latest dating stories, or as I call them, nicknames. You see, I believe the guy I don't nickname will be the one I marry. So what do I mean by that? Once Joe became Micro Penis, John became OnStar, Phil became Small Street, the relationships never went anywhere. And I'm sure some of you have nicknamed a few of your dates out there too. So before I share my latest and greatest men with you tonight, many of which who are not in my book called Nicknames, Tales from the Shallow End of the Manhattan Dating Pool, I'm going to give you a synopsis of my love life and when I started to write over the next 3 minutes. So my story starts 14 years ago at the ripe old age of 20 years old. I fell in love with tall, dark, handsome, and foreign. We eloped after 3 months of dating at City Hall, and then we had a huge wedding in Istanbul, Turkey. He was Turkish. His name was Brock. Names have been changed to protect the guilty. It was kind of like my big fat Greek wedding, but on steroids. It was the skinniest I've ever been in my life. That should have been a red flag right there that our marriage wasn't going to work out. I was also convinced that the groomsmen were in the Turkish mafia by the guns they had strapped to their belts. That also should have been another red flag. So back in the States, my awesome husband started treating me like a piece of furniture. And after 5 years of being treated like a step stool, I told Barack to pack his shit and get out. And he packed all of his worldly possessions into an industrial-sized garbage bag and vacated the apartment. $900 later, we were divorced by a lawyer we found advertised on Queens Boulevard. True. I got custody of the cat, I sold my little silver Saturn car, and I moved into Manhattan. And that's when I logged online. I must have logged on to just about every dating site known to man. I started racking up like 2, 3, 4 first dates per week, and I'd come home a little tipsy after these dates and start writing about them. I felt like if I didn't document what was going on, no one was going to believe me what was happening. Like the craziest shit was happening on these dates. So after several years of dating, I had a whole folder full of emails, text messages, stories, nicknames for the guys I've been out with, very much like this notebook here, which is quickly turning into a sequel to my book. So tonight I want everyone to just buckle up, sit back, grab yourself a drink, and enjoy the construction worker, Ryan Gosling lookalike. I recently had a not on OkCupid date with a real charmer. I agreed to meet Ryan Gosling lookalike, or RGL, at a local Hell's Kitchen sports bar. I guess I was getting lazy and broke my own online dating rule by asking my potential suitor to give me a quick call on the phone prior to meeting. Bonus points if a guy calls first without you having to ask. In the days leading up to our date, RGL's text messages didn't elicit any red flags, and in fact, his pictures were so hot, that's how he got his nickname. I was walking a mere 4 blocks away from my apartment, so I knew I could bail and easily go home if things started to get a little crazy. RGL was working at a construction site just down the block from the bar, which was convenient for the both of us on a first date, right? He was seated all the way in the back of the bar. There were like 100 seats up front, and it was such a beautiful night. Why would he choose such an awkward seating location? Was he hiding from someone, I thought? The answer is yes. When I arrived, RGL said he didn't want his boss to see him at the bar because he was technically on the clock. Oh, and get this, RGL's title was safety manager for the construction site he was working on. I wondered who the hell was supervising the site if the safety manager was eating a Caesar salad and drinking a beer at the bar. It was kind of weird. So I ordered my usual dirty martini with olives. Perhaps due to the martini buzz making my head all fuzzy, I became thoroughly entertained by all of the shit streaming out of RGL's mouth. But then I began berating myself, in my head of course, that I should not have broken my phone call rule. Dear audience, I repeat, please don't go on an online date without a quick phone chat. There are many reasons why I made the phone call rule. I can't tell you how many prospective serial killers or weirdos I'm sure I met by not doing my due diligence on the phone first. There's a reason why I made the phone call rule. You can quickly learn a lot, such as number 1, whether or not he speaks English, which I should have learned whether my ex-husband spoke English before I eloped at City Hall. Number 2, whether or not conversation will flow during your date, you're not just playing a game of stare to see who will blink first. Number 3, whether or not you actually want to continue the conversation in the flesh. And number 4, whether or not you sense any hints of crazy pervert or serial killer in his voice. Now back to my story. I cannot believe what this guy was revealing to me on a first date, although it's probably best he did spill all of his beans that first date, so I knew not to waste my time on a second. I had a sneaking suspicion that RGL was recently released from prison, probably for a DWI, judging from the fact that he lived in Newark, New Jersey and did not own a car. RGL also felt the need to vomit all of his dirty laundry to the first unassuming woman he met, and that was me. Who the hell tells someone on a first date that they, 1, have been fired from 4 different jobs, 2, have been engaged 3 times, 3, have created a phony Facebook profile under a hot classical musician's name to assume a different identity so he can mess with his Hungarian ex-girlfriend, and 4, have driven his car into a subway station and ran from the police. Because that's what you do. According to RGL, you always run from the cops. And 5, get this, he goes to mass every Sunday at 7:30 a.m. because he's a good Irish Catholic boy. I'm surprised the church hasn't burned down yet. Going back to number 3, RGL told me how he moved to Hungary to live with his beautiful ex-girlfriend and was thrown out 3 days later for punching a hole in her wall and threatening her male friend. All of RGL's belongings were left on the streets of Budapest, and he returned back to the States. This was the 5th red flag alert in under an hour. Again, why the fuck was he telling me all this? I know you're wondering why I stayed and I didn't run. I just had to order a second martini because I couldn't believe the shit that was coming out of his mouth. And after all, I am a writer, so I just had to stay. It got better and better. Finally, it was time for our enchanted evening to end and for me to make my escape. RGL texted me 5 minutes after we parted ways, and he apologized for his behavior. He said that who I met was not the real him. He was just very tired and said I was beautiful. Well, thank you, but I'm just not into you. RGL even sent a follow-up text message 2 months later. I give him credit for having the balls to think I might have actually been interested. The end. So this next guy is called the one-man band. I also call him the letter Z. I met the guy I call Z on Match.com circa 2009. He was bald and round, much like that guy from Bizarre Foods, Andrew Zimmern. You know, that guy who will eat all sorts of weird shit like balls, brains, bugs, etc., etc. Now, I do like a guy with a little meat on him, and after a few dates, Z and I sealed the deal back at his apartment. It was the first time we slept together, and it wouldn't be the last. Z was a really nice guy and treated me with respect. Unlike most of the creeps I was used to dating, Z seemed like a great catch. We dated for a couple of months, and I started sleeping over his place. It was awesome. He lived in a luxury building, and I live in a 4th floor walk-up, so why not bask in his nice sheets and view of Central Park, right? He also had a great music collection, but I quickly realized that Z was in his own one-man band. What do I mean? Well, Whenever the lights went down and we went to bed, Z would release a constant stream of flatulence. I was kept awake most of the night praying the tooting would stop, but it didn't. Now, I know we're human and it's natural to pass gas, I get it, but what was passing through this guy was something otherworldly. Maybe it was from all the food he ate. One morning, I contemplated slipping some gas X into his morning coffee, but I didn't. Bottom line is, I need my beauty sleep, and I wasn't going to get it dating the one-man band. I told him that I really enjoyed our time together, it was the truth, but felt the chemistry between us just wasn't there. We called it quits. It was a peaceful ending, and I was finally able to get back my 8 hours of beauty sleep. Guacamole Russian. He said he was going to make me dinner. I got excited. The guy's gonna cook me dinner. And by dinner, he meant guacamole. Yes, this guy wanted to cook me guacamole for dinner, and that's it. He then took his aunt's famous Russian cabbage rolls out of the fridge, ate them in front of me, and did not share. He fed me vodka instead. His name is Russian guacamole. I can't make this shit up. It gets better. Crazy Eyes. Crazy Eyes was the second guy I met on How About We, but definitely a first when it comes to memorable experiences. On our first date, how about we go hear some live jazz music? I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was a little off. For starters, there are the eyes that inspired his nickname. I tried to ignore the fact that they looked a bit like the eyes of a serial killer or worse. While on our first date, I also remember checking my phone and hearing him comment about seeing an email from a dating site in my inbox. This guy was looking over my shoulder. Hello, it's our first date. Why are you creeping up behind me? I agreed to a second date because I'm a nice person. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. This, in retrospect, was not a very good idea. He had a big evening planned, very big evening. It started with dinner at a Russian restaurant. Seems to be a Russian theme going on in my life. I couldn't help noticing how deeply and intensely he stared at people when he spoke. Like he stared at the waiter, just like his eyes just like wouldn't blink. He just stared. It was really creepy. It was as though he was trying to convey a piece of life or death information to the waiter. Not that he'd like to start with the cold beef borscht. Seriously, this man did not blink. I almost had to stop myself from laughing because I caught myself wondering if his eyes hurt from the effort of staying wide open at all times. During dinner, I learned that he'd moved more than half a dozen times all around the country after graduating college. That fact just added to my general sense that this guy was a bit unstable. After dinner, we went to see the play called Avenue Q, which was a huge hit at the time. We had gone to dinner late. We showed up to the show 30 minutes late, but it was okay. I forgave him since we had front row seats. I guess he was a huge fan because he had already seen that play twice before he took me. My mind started racing. Why would anyone want to see the same play 3 times? Is this where he brings all his dates? It turned out the play was really funny. I laughed out loud quite a few times. Every time I laughed, I felt my date's giant dark eyes burning a hole through the left side of my face. It was like that. So I turned and I'd look and he'd comment and he'd say things like, "It really wasn't that funny," or "Why are you laughing?" Yikes, man, it wasn't Hamlet or anything. It was a funny play. I was having fun. I just ignored his weirdness because I was already like 4 martinis in. After the play, he walked me home because I live on the same block as the theater, and I invited him up to my apartment for a drink. That may be the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. As expected, the conversation got weird fast. I told him my dad had passed away. He told me his dad had passed away too. What were the chances of his parent conveniently dying a mere 3 weeks after mine? The mind boggles. As our conversation continued, he grew increasingly agitated for no reason, until he started flipping out on me in my apartment. On our second date, he started yelling things such as, "It's always about you and your feelings, and what about me?" Yikes. Needless to say, I was scared out of my fucking mind. I knew I had to think of something to get this psychopath out of my apartment before he chopped me up into itty-bitty pieces and left me in a garbage bag on the sidewalk. So I very, very calmly said, "You need to put your shoes on and go home." He did, which is no doubt why I'm sharing this story with you today. He texted me when he got home, apologizing profusely for his actions and saying he understood why I may have been scared. I might have been scared. I was this close to calling 911. I ignored the message, thinking I'd never hear from him again. 2 days later, he texted me another apology. It included some very wise advice, something along the lines of, you should always follow your instinct, it is usually right. So I trusted mine and I never communicated with him again. So, this next, okay, Lip Slut. Trademark 2016, Mary Geneva, you're welcome ladies. With all the years in the dating trenches under my belt, I realized it was time for some new rules. I will no longer sleep with anyone on the first, second, or even magical third date. After Barack, my ex-husband, I quickly learned that holding out as long as possible allows you to become more comfortable with each other and not feel like a total slut if they bail later on in the relationship or courting phase. I mean, this is my experience. Everyone has different experiences. I've managed to stick to this rule more or less. Why, people? Because sweating up the sheets with someone so early in the game never goes anywhere. Of course, holding out until the sixth date never goes anywhere either, but for some reason it just feels better this way. But when you're attracted to a new guy and that attraction is mutual, you've still got to do something to release the tension. I've solved this sticky problem by regulating my carnal activities to varying degrees of lip blocking. Hence the term lip slut. Now, don't bother checking Urban Dictionary. It's not in there yet, so allow me to define it for you here tonight. Lip slut. English, USA, noun. Definition, someone who just wants to make out and nothing else. If you're currently in the midst of a serial dating binge, I highly recommend this activity. Once you try it and get a little practice in, you'll be surprised at the erotic satisfaction that can be derived through the experience. Although, admittedly, my dates haven't always mirrored my enthusiasm. But you know what, ladies, that's just tough. There's a new sheriff in town, and I decided after years on the campaign trail that it's my and our turn to call the shots. At least we have our dignity, if nothing else, locked in. I've gotten so good at lip sluthood, or lip slutum at this point, I could easily compete for a gold medal in the Olympics. I daily recognize this delicately honed skill as the athletic feat it is. Naturally, if a viable candidate pops up on the horizon, I'm not averse to lifting the above the neck restrictions, but in the meantime, I've been told I'm a very good kisser. Probably because I can touch my tongue to my nose. So what I've learned from being a lip slut, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned makeout session to relieve stress, exercise your face, burn a couple of extra calories, and most importantly, get a good case of the tingles without having to wake up in someone else's bed the next day. Being a lip slut means not having to worry about what you look like naked. Being a lip slut will also save you a trip to the gynecologist's office begging for yet another prescription for a UTI. Cookie Monster. I met the guy nicknamed Cookie Monster from Not Okay Cupid. CM suggested we meet in Central Park for a picnic. How much fun, I thought. This would be a lot different than meeting at a bar for drinks and getting shit-faced. How romantic and laid back it would be to have our first date in the city twinkling around us. CM said he would buy the sandwiches for our picnic, and I decided to take it up a notch, and I brought a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, fruit, and bottled water. I went to that date starving. Never shy to eat in front of a guy, I held out for our lunch date. I was looking forward to getting to know someone who seemed like an awesome guy on paper, and that's just what it ended up being. He looked good on paper. CM was about half an hour late to our date. I was getting hungrier, and it was hot. I found some refuge under a tree in the park. My stomach growled with each passing second. I think I even scared the park squirrels away. Finally, CM arrived empty-handed. That is except for a small Dean and DeLuca bag. I couldn't wait to take a bite out of whatever sandwich he tastefully chose for us. My mouth began to salivate. He reached into the bag and he pulled out an open package of Pepperidge Farm cookies. I smelled bullshit. Those cookies did not come from the gourmet food shop. It was as if CM pulled the bag of cookies out from under the front seat of his car and masked the snafu by covering it up with a fancy gourmet food bag. What the fuck, I thought. I wanted to turn the bag upside down and shake it out in case the sandwich was magically stuck on the inside. I peered inside the bag to find an empty sandwich wrapper. I felt disappointed, let down. How can one show up in such dire straits? He promised to bring the sandwiches, the main course. How could he? I sat baking in the hot, sweaty city summer sun, and he shows up empty-handed, except for a package of half-eaten Pepperidge Farm cookies, and they weren't even the Milano kind. Get this, they were lemon cookies. Who the fuck buys Pepperidge Farm lemon cookies? I don't know anyone who buys lemon cookies. CM claims he circled around looking for parking on Madison Avenue forever and that he did in fact buy a sandwich. But he was so hungry on the walk over to meet me to the park that he ate our sandwich and left me the cookies. Hello, I was sitting here for what felt like forever, sweating and starving and waiting for you, I thought to myself. All I can say to this, my friends, is that my bottle of wine never went down easier. I chased down 2 lemon cookies with my vino, popped a few of my grapes, then I split. I did, however, share some of my snacks with CM because I'm a nice person and 2 wrongs don't make a right. It's all about karma. Cookie Monster sent me an email the next day suggesting that our next date should take place at my apartment where he would order us in seamless and we can relax on my couch. How gentlemanly of him, not? I asked what made him think I would invite him to my place, and he said I was overreacting. I told him we didn't have chemistry and there would be no second date. Now only if he had brought me that sandwich. That's a good one. Gelato. Zap, that nasty little bastard cherub from OkCupid hit me with another one of his poisonous arrows. He looked so innocent and inviting on the webpage. The only thing good about my experience with Gelato was that he ended up being a one-date wonder. Had he not, my apartment may have become a crime scene. I met Gelato at a little place by the same name near Central Park. His opening remarks sounded compelling enough. He was a professional athlete who just moved back to New York to take care of a sick family friend. He was a bit loud and brash, but claimed it was just his style to speak his mind and keep it real, you know? Anyway, there's a mosquito that just landed on my paper. Go away. Okay. Anyway, the beginning and end to our short little tale goes like this. During the consumption of our refreshing gelato and ensuing walk, we talked about everything from cooking to travel and more. It was really kind of great. Because we seemed to have some chemistry, I broke my own rule and invited him over to my apartment for dinner a few days later. The text exchange that follows ensured that second date never happened. I changed the text messages to protect the guilty, and I'm gonna have my friend Mike come up on stage to help me read. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so I'm gonna make my best friend Mike be put on the spot. Come on. Mike, you can be Gelato, okay?
I'm gonna try my best to be straight and a douche, and I'm holding one of those things. I live in Hell's Kitchen, so you guys can pick which one of those I am.
Just bring yourself in a bottle of something if you want.
Do I need condoms? What? No, seriously, this happened. I saw it.
Okay. No, this is a friendly dinner, by the way. Are you serious about that comment?
So we hanging out?
I thought that was the plan.
So what do I bring?
I said a bottle of something.
Do you want to hang out? Do I get a lap dance?
Well, maybe I'll pole dance for you. I was clearly joking when I texted him that. I was just trying to be a little flirty.
What else? Do I need condoms?
No! Why is this guy bringing condoms to my place on a second date?
Why? You don't use them?
We're not having sex.
You sure? I want to be ready in case.
This guy's got gotta be fucking kidding. I can't tell if you're joking or not. I'm not inviting you over for that intention. So if that's what you're looking for, then maybe dinner on a second date is not a good idea.
Ha
Please let me know so I know I'm not wasting my time.
Oh man, you're so serious.
It's very hard to read you over text, and even though I started preparing, before I go any further, please let me know what I should do.
Sorry, I don't think we mix well.
Oh, brutal.
Fucking asshole. Okay, then that's fine. I wish I would have known before I went and bought everything.
You seem serious.
Huh?
You seem serious.
What do you mean? You asked if you could bring condoms over. I couldn't tell if that was a joke or not.
I feel you're uptight.
You don't even know me, and it's hard to read by a text. Put yourself in my shoes, too. I thought I would stray from the norm and invite a guy over I met once for dinner.
Yeah.
I'm such a fool.
How do you figure?
Well, I was looking forward to getting to know you, went and got all this stuff, and now you tell me you don't think we mix well?
You seem serious. Wait for it. Are you wearing panties tonight?
Ah, fuck this guy. Maybe you're right, maybe we don't mix well. I stopped cooking, I'm going out now. Good luck.
Did you call me, by the way, after this? She said I'm going out now. I figured it was for me. Thanks. You too.
In the end, I happily shared my feast with my girl Jacqueline and her boyfriend from down the block. They were much better dinner companions, and as far as I know, neither of them brought condoms. I recommended Gelato move from OkCupid to Tinder if he just wanted a hookup. I have many more stories. So if you want to read about silicone dick, you can go to my blog, marysnicknames.com. You can buy my book, Nicknames, Tales from the Shallow End of the Manhattan Dating Pool on Amazon. I also have a couple of books in the back if you'd like to buy one. And please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MaryGeneva.NYC. And just as a side note, I work in healthcare during the day, so the average age of my client is 90 years old. So I'm not meeting a guy there. I tried their grandchildren, but they're Jewish, and they can't bring me home to their parents. It was close once, and then the grandmother was like, "Oh, you're beautiful, but you're not Jewish. You'll never marry into my family." So if anyone knows a single eligible bachelor who doesn't have 10 roommates and can bring me home to his parents, I'll meet you at the bar at the end of the show. Okay, thank you.